So this week's NXT kicked off with Cameron Grimes versus Roderick Strong, and the story here was that Cameron Grimes was pretty much trying to recruit Roderick Strong and pretty much create a new Undisputed Era now that the old one is gone. And to be honest with you, I feel like this whole thing is more just a filler feud. Like, I was always curious when the Undisputed Era broke up how each of them were going to do individually. I mean, I think we all knew that Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly would be fine because we've seen what they could do on their own, but I was always more curious to see how Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong would fare. But the problem is that I think everything good that they've done was in the Undisputed Era. We haven't really seen Bobby or Roddy in a singles environment, and even when we did, they weren't really doing much. So I really hope they're going to be okay too, because personally, I've always been of the opinion that all the members of the Undisputed Era were stars. But anyways, Cameron Grimes beats Roderick Strong, and then Roderick Strong walks out saying that he's done. So we'll see where his career goes after this. Then we had Santos Escobar versus Tyler Breeze. And of course, the champion picks up the victory to gain momentum for the title match at NXT TakeOver. And I guess if anything else, it also did hype up the NXT Tag Team Championship match at TakeOver. Then Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell defeated Gigi Dolan and Zeta Ramir, and then proceeded to challenge the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon for the titles. And this is a good example of when I said the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships could help the women's division a lot in NXT. It really helps the women's division get more matches on a TakeOver card. So that'll be nice to see. And then we had another women's match afterwards with the number one contender to the NXT Women's Championship, Raquel Gonzalez against Zoe Stark. And earlier in the night, Io Shirai attacked Raquel, but Raquel got the upper hand. And after the match, Io Shirai attacked Raquel again, but Raquel launched Io into the barricade and left her laying. Then we got a Prime Target promo hyping up the unsanctioned match between Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole at TakeOver. And I don't know what this reminded me of, but I know I've seen this sort of interview style before. It also turned out to be a lot more emotional than I thought, and I think that's partly due to the music. And this package was honestly fine up until the end, because then they start putting in all these effects that just make it look really cheesy and stupid. Like, why are there random shots of lightning and a rain filter over the video? It seriously looks like I added this myself in post, but I swear I did not edit this at all. This is actually the promo going into TakeOver. Then we had another women's match. Man, I can't remember the last show that actually had this many women's matches. And on the Go Home show before TakeOver too. Ain't that something? Anyways, it was supposed to be a tag team match, and Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter came out, and the first of their opponents, Xia Li, came out. And I think I missed the week where Xia changed her gimmick, because when she first came out, I honestly didn't know it was Xia. I could only think about how fucking badass and cool this person's entrance was. And then when I saw it was Xia Li, I thought to myself, that is how you repackage a wrestler. And part of her gimmick has a supernatural element to it, so she came out with this guy named Tian Sha and like this spooky demon lady, Mei Ying. And I only just found out now that Tian Sha means goddamn. I don't know why this is so funny. Like, WWE could have chosen any other name. Like, Mei Ying's name at least makes sense, but WWE's best name for this fucking rude from Final Fantasy looking guy was goddamn. Anyways, Caden Carter goes up to the stage to confront Tian Sha and Mei Ying, and then Mei Ying burps in Caden Carter's face and makes her pass out, and then Xia Li took out Casey in the ring to pick up the victory. Honestly, I'm hoping that Xia gets a huge push after this, because I think this new gimmick really works for her and makes her seem super badass and cool. Then Raquel Gonzalez did an interview, and Io Shirai attacked her from behind, and this would be a theme throughout the night where Io Shirai would pretty much just get into random fights with Raquel to build up the match at TakeOver. And it was during this segment that I actually felt like they were actually doing a pretty good job building up Raquel as a legitimate threat to Io's title reign. Because even after getting jumped from behind, Raquel still managed to take down Io, this time by throwing her through a wall. Then we had a promo hyping up this debut of a person named Frankie on April 13th when NXT moves to Tuesday nights. And I mean, it just looks so dumb. I don't know who this is, but I already don't care. Then we started setting up to see who was the #1 contender to the NXT North American Championship, and I have to say, this whole thing was honestly really confusing, because apparently there is supposed to be this 12-man, which is now an 11-man Battle Royal because Roderick Strong no-showed, and then once half of the men in the match are eliminated, the final 6 immediately gain entry into a gauntlet match on night 1 of TakeOver, and depending on how the last 6 men in the Battle Royal get eliminated will determine their entry spot in the gauntlet match on night 1, and then whoever wins that gauntlet match becomes the #1 contender to Johnny Gargano's NXT North American title on night 2. Like, the whole thing was just super confusing. I did not think it needed to be this way. You honestly could have just had a gauntlet match with 6 guys to determine the #1 contender and just called it a day. You didn't need to have all that extra shit thrown in because it just made it way more confusing. Also, another thing that I realized when I saw this match is that some storylines are not built upon week after week. Like, they had this thing at the beginning of the Battle Royal where Leon Ruff attacked Isaiah Swerve Scott, and I had no idea where this rivalry came from, and I've been watching every NXT show for the past few weeks, so I was really confused as to what was going on. It just goes to show that there are some rivalries that are not built upon week after week, and it's kind of the same thing when I saw Xia Li. Like, I had no idea she changed her gimmick. But anyways, LA Knight wins the Battle Royal, which is a little weird because he lost to Bronson Reed just last week, and now all of a sudden he's being booked the way I thought he would have been booked when he first came in. But whatever, we'll see who wins the gauntlet match on night 1 next week. And then right after that, Io comes out and calls out Raquel Gonzalez for another fight. And then Raquel comes out and they brawl and they do the thing they always do where all the wrestlers in the locker room come out to try to separate the 2 combatants. And eventually Io takes out Raquel and the entire crowd of superstars with a crossbody off the top rope and stands tall as the go-home show goes off the air. So overall, this was a pretty good go-home show. It built up a lot of the right matches, and we'll see what happens next week on the final NXT on Wednesday nights.